Do you guys remember? You guys remember over the summer when Simone Biles said she had the twisties, right? And it was a mental health discussion. You guys remember that? And I believe I said, can you imagine if LeBron James was getting ready for the NBA Finals, and he said, I need a mental health break because I'm going through some stuff. And my point was then was the same my point is now, which is everybody says they want to be treated equally until they actually are. Right? And look, that's not the only place. It's like in my business, everyone says, I want feedback. You got any feedback for me? And then somebody who you ask feedback from says something negative. And suddenly you get defensive. Well, the board op didn't hit the sound at the right time. And, the question was a good question. He just didn't perceive it the right. Like, no. You said you wanted feedback. I gave you feedback. And now you're saying people don't really want feedback. They want somebody who's important to tell them they're great. That's what they want. Right? People don't really want to be treated equally. They just want to be told they're great and make more money. And the perfect example of it is we're in this moment, okay, where women in many ways are rightfully trying to get the tables equal, right? Hey, we want equal treatment under the law. Great. Right. The problem with it with the U.S. women's national soccer team is they actually were getting a higher percentage of everything. There just wasn't as much money. It's just not. It's not as popular a sport, period. Even if they're more successful. And right now, they're actually not as successful as their billing is. They've actually been kind of underachieving because the next generation with the old generation hasn't meshed perfectly. Simone Biles and obviously U.S. gymnastics, and there's some other parts to it, right? But there's hey, we want to be treated. By the way, U.S. women's gymnastics, and this was my issue then, was like, no one's ever had a bad word to say about Simone Biles. Nobody was cheering for you to lose. That just doesn't happen. Not in America. Maybe internationally, maybe people don't like Americans. And competing in the Olympics, I have no idea. Right? But I can tell you that there's no such thing as there's no debate talk as to Simone Biles, and there's no Simone Biles haters out there. So you're not actually treated equally. And the perfect example of that is Ben Simmons. New report out that says that Ben Simmons and the bad back is a trigger, okay, or a mental block that he's going through as far as getting back out in the court. And, of course, you pick the NBA analyst. You pick the NBA fan. You pick the NBA social media guy. They are all having a great time at Ben Simmons' expense. Right? I'm surprised no one's done the George Costanza running over women and children when the fire came out. Remember when there was a fire at the party? They thought there was a fire at the party, and he's just pushing people out of the way. Right? That's the Ben Simmons dependable teammate. Like, no one's made that. My thing has always been like, look, if you say you're hurt, you're hurt. But he just doesn't have any positive equity with anybody. Nowhere. And, oh yeah, by the way, why were you hurt when you had an entire year off? It's been a year since you played a basketball game. How are you not in peak physical condition? How have you not been working for this moment? But how come we haven't gotten to the place where Ben Simmons is like, I got a mental block? You're like, okay, well, you take all the time you need. That's what we heard from Simone Biles. Yes, Jay Stu.
We also heard that she was brave. I have yet to hear one person call Ben Simmons brave for this decision.
Of course, nobody's going to say he's brave. Actually, they say the opposite of him, right? So then you get people coming, this is a bad look, bro. Like, no, it's not. It's the exact same thing. We also made her mental health break out to be something like she wasn't suicidal. Okay, she had the twisties, she had the yips, right? Where you kind of lose sense of where you are in gymnastics, and you kind of got to get it back. But it happened right before the Olympics, man. She missed the Olympics. So, and this is Ben Simmons in a first-round series. He didn't play for an entire year, and he's like, man, my mentals aren't right. Has there been one person to go like, Ben Simmons is brave. Of course not. Of course not. Which is fine. It's okay to treat women with more kindness and more respect, okay, and in a more gentle fashion. But just don't tell me that you want to be treated the same. No, you want to be paid the same. You don't want to be treated the same. Right? How do I get all the better? Like, look, I'm sorry. Yes, a part of the deal with getting all this pay is that we're going to talk about you a lot. And when you don't perform to the level, we're going to get after you a little bit. Nobody ever does that, though. Right? Because it's not as popular. It's not as driven. It's not as debatable. And there are very few negatives that come along with the discussion to it. Please stop with the, we want to be just different. It's okay to be different. It's quite all right. If you're celebrated for your differences, you're celebrated because you're different, it's great. Please don't do the, it's like the WNBA. I want to travel. We want to travel private jets. Like, okay, we guys don't make enough money. You can do that, but you're not going to make as much money in salaries. It's too expensive. All right, let's get to Dan Byer. Find out what else is going on. DB, what do you got?
I don't know. Are they the same? I mean, Simone Biles builds up 4 years to the Olympics. Ben Simmons doesn't play in a meaningless game 4. I don't know if...
It's just the idea of, like, if we're doing the mental health thing, like all mental health is, hey, stop, respect somebody's mental health, allow them to have the time. There hasn't been one person that's like, hey, Ben Simmons, his mental game might not be right. He shouldn't be out there. Take all the time you need.
I also think Simone Biles was risking serious injury in what she was doing. I don't think that this is... With Ben Simmons, this has been an issue for a long time. I just don't think it's apples to apples in this case. I don't think we need to be, bending over backwards to praise Ben Simmons for this when if he's got issues, but I just think they're different. I don't think that you can compare one with the other in their situations.
I actually agree, but that's part of the we want to be treated equally thing. And I understand that you're saying it's not the differences in sex, it's the complete difference in situation. Understood.
Yeah. Like Simone Biles walked away from something that she trained 4 years from. Ben Simmons walked away from a night on the basketball court when the season was going to end that night.
Well, he didn't play the whole year, though, and he won't shoot, and it's pretty obvious that he's got a mental block there. Just, right? It's like painfully obvious. Now, part of it is he's never come out until this article, until this new Bleacher Report thing, and said, or it was Shams who said, right, Shams Charania, and said, like, hey, I got a mental health issue, right? Part of it is owning up to having a mental health issue and telling people that you're working through some things. But I don't think anybody's going to, and I still believe, like, right, if we get to the NBA Finals, okay, and Steph Curry's like, man, I'm just not feeling it. Or I don't want to drive in the lane because I lose my sense of balance. We just
I do
don't
think there's
do that.
There's also a difference between team responsibility and individual responsibility. And maybe it's easier for Simone Biles to drop out because it's her own, career, if you will. And there's the pressure of maybe another teammate. I can give you all that. I just don't think
I could give you that she took somebody's spot that didn't get to play, didn't get to go in the Olympics. She represents the entire country. There's actually she's actually representing a greater number of people.
Yeah,
it's
another American than won the overall gold. So the all around, but